Hi folks. Been quite quiet on the video front in the last week or so. I have been cracking on with bits and pieces, just odds and ends more than actually finishing things, I would say. Like I've made a start on my, well, what would I call it, the 100 Years War project. I'm concentrating on Agincourt, and I'm going to use Perry Miniatures plastics for those. I've already assembled the crossbowmen, some men-at-arms and things. But we're also cracking on with an Eastern Front project for bolt action. So to that end I've made these trenches out of MDF and some filler. I used bits of sprue to bring about a sort of ridge where the earth has been cut out, and yeah, just filler on top of that then, and just normal emulsion paints and a nice dry brusher. The real star of the show are the little Sprue Soldiers, I call them. They're a suggestion from a guy in the latest issue of Wargames, Soldiers and Strategy, and he's got an article on how to make these. They're very, very simple. For the bases I've used offcuts of MDF, so the bases haven't cost anything. And the bodies, the torsos, are made of 2 bits of short sprue stuck together. You're not looking at them up close really, but the heads and weapons, then you can just raid your bits box for them. So these are entirely free, you're not using legs or torsos from any of the sets, so anyone could make these really, regardless of, if you've used up all of your figures, you're bound to have some weapons and heads left over from all these plastic kits. It's a bit of an example. Because when I've gone, well, you bulk up the torso then, once you've glued the arms and the heads on. The heads fit on fine, but what you might find is that there's a gap between the arms and the torso, because you're not going to get it spot on. Then you just put in some plastic putty and you bulk up the torso with either, I've used plastic putty this time, but next time I'm going to use green stuff, and that's what the author suggested in that article. For the bases I've gone for a black, and also a sort of matching black on the trenches themselves. So that's one example. What's nice about these, sorry, before I cut across, is that these are obviously removable casualties. You could really match squads, so if you've got a squad of 10 men, you could make 10 with matching weapons, and then as casualties are taken, you know exactly who to take off. This is another MDF offcut that I've made another trench with. So yeah, I quite like this idea. This guy is yet to have a left arm to be put on, and this guy is going to be up front, and I'm going to paint up an MG42 to rest up on you. The guys that have ended up a bit thin, I've just gone for a field grey tunic. But for the bulkier fellas, I've gone for the actual Wehrmacht smock. So hopefully that's just an idea for you guys. These are barely take any time to do really, the time consuming processes, well, I suppose just painting them up, I suppose, and if you put a little bit of effort into the painting, they're quite tolerable. And they're certainly just for wargaming really, these aren't display miniatures, but I quite like the idea myself, and I'll make a few more lengths of trenches to go with them. I'm not going to fuss too much with making them too fancy. They are just dug out earth emplacements after all. But hopefully that's an idea for you guys. I won't show you the other things I've been doing, it's just rebasing, giving some TLC to some bits and pieces, and for Thursday I've got a Saga game, so I'm actually painting up all those Saga Welsh you saw after Penarth. So that's a lot of just cracking on, but there's nothing to show for my labour as of yet. Okay folks, I'll leave you with that, and hopefully that gives you an idea at least for your bolt action or chain of command games. Okay, all the best folks. Ta-da.